Today we have with us Chidinma Ogugua-Obata. I hope I pronounced that name correctly, Chidinma. Chidinma studied human anatomy at the Delta State University in Nigeria. She's currently pursuing a master's degree in public health at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. She's also the current executive director of Mildheart Care Foundation, and she works as a freelance consultant for different companies. Thank you very much, Chidinma. Me and Chidinma met in Ghana when during the Yali program, and when we had class sessions and interview sessions, Chidinma made very, very valuable contributions. I really liked the contributions that you made during our class sessions. And beyond the Yali program, I have seen you travel across Africa, doing amazing things for young adults in sexual reproduction campaigns. So thank you very much for agreeing to do this with us today, Chidinma. I'm going to hand over the digital mic to you right now. But before then, quickly, if you have questions while we are on the call, if you have questions while we are on the call, please, you can either use the Q&A function on Zoom, or you can drop your questions in the chat box. The run of show would be, we have some pre-arranged questions for Chidinma today that I'll be running through. After those pre-arranged questions, I will open it up to the Q&A section. So Chidinma, I'm handing over the digital mic to you. Please introduce yourself. Tell us if there's anything else. I know that there's so much more to you, like even talking about like Mildheart Care Foundation. If there's anything else that I missed that you'd like to touch on in the introduction.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I hope my network works out for this call. So thank you, everyone. My name is Chidinma Ogugua-Obata. I'm based in Enugu, Nigeria, and I work with Mildheart Care Foundation as executive director and founder. I love to work with adolescents and young people in civil society space, and that was meeting Nancy in Ghana. We were selected for the Yali RLC program, and Nancy was in the is it policy
governance track,
and I was in governance track, and I was in the civil civil leadership development track, and it was an amazing time. 3 weeks spent together, and we had a lot that we learned, and that really helped me since 2024 up until now in my advocacy work. And I'm excited to be here to share my experience, because I feel like somebody will be able to benefit from that, and also to see how our experiences connect with one another. And for everyone who will be listening in and be watching the replay, I'm sure that there'll be one or two things that they can take away from that. So looking forward to the conversation, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chidinma. So to just like delve right in, from your bio, you state that you're very interested in good health, social justice, and well-being for young people. So my question is, like, what experiences or moments in your life pushed you into doing this type of advocacy work? Even from listening to you in Ghana, you already knew what you wanted. You joined the civil rights policy track. So like, what pushed you, like what propelled you to take this path that you're taking right now, working with young people? I just want you to talk more about that before we go into the nitty-gritty of the YPN.
All right, thank you, Nancy. So just like everyone goes through school, goes through university, and sometimes when we are in school, we are still thinking of what we want to do. And me, I was just open to anything, right? I never even knew that there was a space in development in Nigeria or anywhere. So like I said, I studied human anatomy, and upon graduation, there was COVID-19, so there was literally no work in the country and all over the world. And when COVID-19 ended, I had like a job opportunity to work in a lab. So I was doing COVID tests for patients. And then remember, it was a travel requirement for people to take COVID tests. So we had a lot of clients. And I'll see that there are some clients that keep coming back week after week, month after month to do COVID tests. It means that they are traveling very frequently, and I was like, oh my god, I can't wait to be traveling like them. And as at that time, I had never actually traveled out of the country. This was 2021, after the COVID-19 lockdown subsided. So I just like, I feel like there's power in words, and that's one of the key lessons I'll take, because I just said it out there. I wasn't feeling bad or feeling somehow that I was taking their tests and they were having opportunities to travel and I did not. But I was just excited and enthusiastic and saying that one day me too, I'll take COVID tests to travel. So it eventually happened with me, because I was working there, and one day in church, my one of our pastors said that there's a network called Men Engage, and they are looking for youth to join their youth network. And because I was the youth leader in my church, so they just said I should join the youth network. And I was happy. I joined. And the first experience I had was being able to attend the annual general meeting in Abuja. I had never entered a plane before. And that was the first time I was going to travel to Abuja for the AGM. And I was so excited. I went to Abuja, and I remember what my father said. My father said, this trip you are going to for the first time on plane to Abuja, the next one will be outside the country."
Amen.
And I said, "Amen." And then after the AGM, during the AGM, there was an application for the network, for the youth network, to actually go for a training on
Chidinma, I think you're breaking.
in the Men Engage Training Institute. So I was enthusiastic and I applied. I had zero experience.
If you can hear me, please, I want you to use the react function on Zoom like this. You can give me a thumbs up to show that you can hear me. I think we lost Chidinma. The bandwidth currently in Nigeria is, thank you very much, Adibare. So we just give Chidinma a few seconds to join the call back. Whilst we're waiting for her to join the call, I just wanted to quickly highlight some of the things that she had said. So as young professionals, for Chidinma, she was able to bridge the gap between her desires and purpose. She said she was administering COVID tests for people who were going to travel. But she also wanted to be like them. She wanted to travel as well. And it's okay to have that be one of your motivating factors. But what did she do? She was able to close the gap between her desire and her purpose. So thank you.
Sorry,
No, we already talked about this. We already talked about your bandwidth as it's low, so it's normal. It's a Zoom recording, so
God help me. Okay. So
can you talk now?
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So I don't know where I stopped, but let me just continue. So
your dad told you
I was selected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the opportunity came and I was selected in the youth network to go for the training, and I had no experience whatsoever. So that was my first time traveling, and my father was like a prophet, like he prophesied And when I got to Uganda, I met people who had many years of experience. I can't even say I could record one, maybe about a year of experience. And the experience I had wasn't even like on ground. It was just like taking trainings online. So there were a lot of people there, and it kind of made me curious. And I was like, I want to be in this space.
Mhm.
I like working in the lab, but I don't think I don't see myself there. So for me, joining that network was an eye opener. And when I came back to Nigeria, one thing that I realized that it did for me was that it opened me up to more opportunities to travel, because once I could leave the country, I determined in my heart that it's like I saw the lights. I saw people who travel every now and then. And I'm like, if I didn't have this opportunity, I'll still be in my country and still feel like, oh, everything one day in 5 years' time. So it just made me see that, okay, there are opportunities for me to actually learn and build experience in this area. So it's something that I think happens with people. Like once you find something, you automatically attract more of those things, and that was how it started for me. I came back to like Nigeria, and I said I want to be able to do something in this space. I started working in development space, and my beginning was basically trying to learn about these issues, learning about gender-based violence, learning about accountability, learning how to work with men and boys. And that training actually helped me because it was on feminist leadership. So it opened my eyes a lot to things about feminism, and it started a very wonderful journey for me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I feel like that was very, very profound. A lot of things that you said were like moving parts, and my brain is like, how should I keep up? Like, this is so nice. First of all, our very, very first speaker on the call, Alex Nelson, is also the regional coordinator for Men Engage in North America here in the US. So imagine, I didn't even know that you were part of the Men Engage network. So I will definitely connect you both together. So Men Engage there. Also, another beautiful thing that I wanted to highlight from everything that you said is many times we think, oh, young professionals have to like find purpose or determine their career path in life using or like seeing a gap and then closing that gap, which is very, very true, which is very, very solid in itself. That is one way to like determine your purpose in life. But another way that you have said that is very interesting is what you just said. Chidinma, you just said that you also this was like a desire. You wanted to travel, you wanted to experience, the world outside of your own home country. And what better way to do that than to add value, right? And that has become like your purpose. So just to highlight to young professionals, us all on the call today, that there is no hard and fast rule to doing this. In previous conversations, if you want, you can go back on to the YouTube channel and watch all the previous conversations that we've had. We've highlighted that there has to be like a gap that you're closing, you're, adding value to the society, you are creating something from scratch, all the rest. But Chidinma is telling us today that her own journey began with the desire to wanting to travel, which is perfectly fine as young professionals. Like we said, there's no hard and fast rule. This is also a learning point for me as well, to just know that, oh, it doesn't have to be like this. Particularly, there are so many nuances and variations to what we are called to do. And another thing that you said that I really, really like, that I would like to highlight, is joining a network. So you joined Men Engaged. We've also talked about like all the previous speakers that we've had also talked about like joining a network. And the Young Professionals Network is one of such networks that you can join, you can affiliate yourself with. Joining this call for 1 hour you might take away something, even if it is one thing that you're taking away. And then also applying yourself as well, like joining. I'm very certain that when you joined the Men Engage, you were very active, right? There was opportunity to apply for something else outside of the country. You went to Uganda. And so far, I think you have gone to how many African countries now? 10, 15,
Maybe 10 or 11, I don't know.
I mean, from 2021 till now, and these are funded travel, right? You don't have to pay for anything, which is really good, right? So you can actually still determine your purpose from your desires, what I'm saying. The next question I would like to ask you is like a very good segue. This conversation or this last statement that we made is a good segue into the second question that I have today. We've talked about like you traveling to over 11 African countries for conferences, youth engagement, and the likes. So my question is, what have those experiences traveling, what has it taught you about the similarities and differences in the challenges that young people face across the continent? You've had the opportunity to interact with people from Senegal, Ethiopia, Uganda, Ghana, and the like. So, like, what have your experiences been like, especially when it comes to like human and interpersonal relationship amongst you?
So, first of all, some of these trips, it started from something, right? An interest, a desire to actually do these things. But something that I have had not talked about was how it kind of took me back to my childhood. Joining Men Engage and seeing how there is an intersectionality between men and boys and women and girls issues took me back to my childhood and how I suffered from sexual violence, because I remember taking trainings on accountability, taking trainings on social norms, and working with community and traditional gatekeepers on these issues like gender-based violence. It was through Men Engage I first learned about gender-based violence. I'm like, yo, this thing that happened can be termed under gender-based violence. I started being curious about the issues, started being curious about the role that men and boys play and the role of society in also propagating these things or kind of being solutions to these issues. So that was also there. And beyond going to Uganda and being part of the MATI training, like I mentioned, I started looking for opportunities to tell my story because it brought me back. It was like I grew up, I lived with the trauma. I had no idea about the trauma and what it had done to me until I started learning about the issues. So that opened me up to going back and thinking about it again and seeing everything in a new light and saying, so this is what happened. So this is why this happened. So this is why I was two-sided. I will be confident today, tomorrow I just want to be alone, how it affected my self-esteem and growing up. And so it all came together and I was like, I need to find more opportunities to talk about these things and see it as part of advocacy and see how can we work together? How can we bring the true lived experience of young people into advocacy? And there was another opportunity that same year to travel to Togo for a UNESCO project. And that was how like I got to start working with UNESCO with their project. There was an education saves lives campaign that they were doing and they wanted to stories of people that are suffering issues with gender-based violence and as well. So that was the second opportunity I had to travel. And I realized that people came from Ghana, Senegal, different countries, right? Even from Nigeria, somebody else came from Nigeria and talked about these issues. And I realized that this is a continental challenge, right? This is something that is continental. And why is it not peculiar to us in Nigeria? So I started learning about what are the root causes of these issues. Lack of information, there's ignorance, there's poverty. The gatekeepers are kind of even making things worse. There's patriarchy, there are different issues. And these things, when the girl from Ghana talked about her issue with sexual violence with a cousin, like I could relate to it. And she's saying the family members are not interested. They're trying to protect family image. That's why they couldn't speak up. And now she's able to speak up. So many reasons why people are not able to speak up and talk about these things. They are all embedded in the rule. And I realized that from then on, I had opportunities to work with the project, and UNESCO keep calling me back to come and talk about this. The next year, I still had opportunity to travel to talk about the project, to advocate to government, advocate to institutional leaders, talking about lived experiences. And that was how like I had more opportunities from one opportunity to the other to be able to talk about my story, to use it to drive advocacy. And when you even go to the rooms, you realize that there's also generational issues where the older people are saying another thing, the younger people want something different, and it's the same. The last time I traveled to Cote d'Ivoire last year. They brought young people into the room and said, "What are your challenges?" People are still talking about the same things: SRHR issues, health issues. The young people, they don't want to understand us from our own lenses, and it's affecting how the solutions are being provided, because we can't provide the solutions by ourselves. We can say this is what we are dealing with, but it's a collective action. So if governments are not willing to play their role, if all the community leaders, traditional leaders are saying, okay, this is what I think, this is, if everybody is not like on the same page, we realize that there's an issue. So those trips has made me to understand that we're having the same things. And even when I do my research and want to talk about these things, I want to compare the continent of Africa to probably a continent like Europe, and I see that there's a very huge difference, in the sense that in the educational system, they have access to CSC, they have access to this information, and they can make responsible choices. But that is different here, because here we are thinking
I think her network is breaking again whilst we're waiting for her to connect back in. If you're just joining the call, today we have Chidinma Ogugua-Obata talking to us from her own experience of how she's navigating life and career as a young professional. We have some pre-arranged questions for Chidinma, which we're running through right now. But immediately after that, we'll open the call up to Q&A, and you can use the Q&A function on Zoom to drop your questions while the call is going, or you can use the chat box to drop your questions as well. In the next, say, 5 to 10 minutes, we'll get to the Q&A section. So whilst we're waiting for her to log back in, I just really wanted to also highlight some of the things that she has said that I found very, very interesting and intriguing. She said opportunities, and I'm going to ask her that once she gets back into the call. Opportunities. From one, there was like a spiral effect into multiple opportunities, right? So she talked about rooms as well. Many young professionals feel that we can't get into these type of rooms, or we see these rooms as big rooms, or like, for example, you can even say, who am I traveling out of Nigeria to these conferences that are fully funded? Or what do I have to say once I get the opportunity to stand before these, say, 400 people sitting in a crowd? But we see Chidinma today, who has been able to conquer that, right? So it is very, and then even listening to her, the type of people within these rooms are the people like you and I, right? And you do have something to say. It all boils down to defining your purpose. We see from Chidinma's trajectory that her own purpose, she didn't come into it until joining Men Engage and listening to the conversations in Men Engage. That was when she realized, or she said that was when she heard about sexual-based, gender-based violence for the first time. And that was when she connected the dots to what had happened in her own life when she was younger. And then from then on, her purpose was determined, right? So there are so many routes again to attaining or gaining purpose in life as a young professional. One of which is what Chidinma is highlighting today. There are some people who have clarity of purpose and say, this is what I know that I want to do. There are others who would need a helping hand to determine their own purpose in life. And it's from applying yourself, joining international organizations. Do not self-select yourself out to say, oh, I don't think this is the right thing for me, or I am deserving to be here. Just applying yourself regardless of, the fear that you have in your mind. I'm very certain that when Chidinma was joining all those rooms, she didn't feel untouchable. She didn't feel like she had the most to say. I'm very certain that she had elements of fear and doubt within herself. But regardless of that, she applied herself. And voila, we have her today speaking from a place of deep purpose and deep understanding for the path that she wants to toe in life. So back to you, Chidinma. I was just trying to fill in the gap while you were away. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
My network, I don't know. Thank you for helping me. Just keep helping me fill in the gap. I don't know
Mm,
if yeah, I think that's what I'll say. And also one thing I learned traveling is that it exposed me to my shortcomings. Like I said, I could be confident today and tomorrow I'm just like going back into my shell. I remember the first time I ever traveled to Europe. I met people who were very confident and they could speak up. When I first go into a room, I'm very reserved. I want to examine the environment and see if I'm comfortable here. And I saw people who didn't care about that. They were willing to take risks. They were willing to say their ideas, even if it sounded stupid. And me, I'm here thinking I need to be well articulated and gather my thoughts together. And I learned a lot from that experience because I felt like we Africans, we have a lot more to offer, but we are really scared. We have that fear. And when I came back home, I'm like, yo, I need to work on this. I should not be afraid to speak. I should not be afraid to give my ideas. I should not first think about how they are going to respond to me and be like, no, don't let me say this because it might sound weird. So that for me was really good. And you see people who are they are just bold. They are willing to take risks. They are willing to apply for stuff. They are willing to travel. They are willing to use their own money to do things. And it's always a lesson for me seeing people and hearing about their experiences and what they are doing. It just gives me more things to work on, and it gives me that courage to say, okay, you're doing this, you can actually do better. So just meeting people and connecting with people also, it changes a lot. Like I recommend we need to just be in a different environment and have that feel of what somebody else is doing, what somebody else is going through, and what they're experiencing. It helps a lot.
yeah. Thank you very much for saying that. Yes, you're very correct. Like, me too, like even here in the US, like you see people who are unafraid to share their ideas, regardless of whether or not they think it's correct or wrong. And then even the society rewards those type of people as well, because the bottom line is not essentially the content itself, right? Of course, the content is very important, but it's mostly also about like the confidence. Like people want to see you being confident. People want to know, especially the older generation, they want to know that you're bold. There is also like, I mean, I was talking about like psychosis, and me and my professor were discussing, if you're a PhD student, right, a PhD candidate rather, and you're maybe presenting your defense, they say the most successful people are people who, when you tell them, oh, I think you didn't do this in your regression analysis, you should have run this test, you should have. There are people who will tell you, well, I ran the test and it didn't work, so moving on, next question. Whereas there are other types of people who will tell you, oh, yes, I think that's a good idea, I will look into it, right? So just like being very bold, being very audacious is very rewarding. This is not to say that you should come with fluff, like you should come with a lot of noise, and when they bust open into you, there's really nothing there. No, that's not the point. The point here is to say you have to be confident. And guess what I've noticed in my time also living here in the US is Africa is a really, really fertile ground compared to where I am right now. When I mean fertile ground in comparison, I mean there's so many issues that you can champion coming out from Africa, issues that can give you grants, that can give you international recognition, global dominance, which is not the same here. Like, the society is relatively working well to a large extent. So there is really nothing that, people can take up to champion. Whereas compared to Africa, you can pick up one issue and then that becomes like your propelling. There's so many things going on that you can actually use to, propel yourself. But I have a question for you, Chidinma, if you can quickly touch on that before we go on to the other two questions that we have, is you talked about opportunities, right? It seems very vague. It seems very ambiguous right now. Like people talk about like opportunities, opportunities, opportunities. But I want you to walk us through the process of these opportunities from like where you found the opportunities, how you found the opportunities, how you applied for the opportunities, the nitty gritties. Because like the bottom line for many young professionals is they tell you, oh, grab opportunities, but nobody really tells you where the opportunities are, where to look. There's so many things. The world is so polarized right now. So there's so many things to look at, but I want you to narrow it down and direct us in the right focus. For you, where do you find these opportunities and how do you apply for these opportunities that has taken you out of Nigeria multiple times and is still taking you out of the country multiple times?
Okay, so regarding opportunities, one thing I want to say so that I don't forget is that sometimes when I direct people to opportunities and I say go here, they don't want to do it. They feel like it's not for me. They are not in the position, or probably it's not yet time, and that can actually affect because how I see opportunities is that the more you look at them, the more you find them, you scout for them, you look at the kind of questions, it helps you to understand what to expect and what to work on. So for me, in 2021, the first opportunity I found was with Men Engage Nigeria. It was just there. And I was like, I don't have any experience. I don't know anything about this, but I'm still going to just write and keep it somewhere because there wasn't even a timeline or whatever. What I did not mention was that what helped me was not really about what I wrote. It was about how fast I submitted because they didn't put a deadline. So people were just playing around. And then by the time we came back from the AGM, they just said you have today to submit. And I had already done my own like weeks back. And so I'm sure everybody would have been rushing to write anything that they can write and just imagine submitting the same day. I feel like I know that made a difference for me because I know I settled down to address the question. So the opportunity came from the network, and the next opportunity also came from the network. So they are getting those opportunities. But sometimes when we look at them, we feel like, let's not go there. Just write it and keep it, or just write it and submit for submitting sake. You never know.
I guess like so like where was it like an app? How did you happen upon Men Engage for the very first time? Like that's like the core that I want you to touch
like
on.
I mentioned, it was true. It was true my pastor in church. Okay. So you might have people around you who are part of networks and you can just tell them about your interests. Like I tell people about my work interest, like I want this kind of job, I want this kind of gig. Can you help me with it? And people literally send me. I have people on my WhatsApp that send me these applications like on a steady. So if you are looking for something, I'm sure you find it. And one of the things that also helped me was I read a book. Like I was part of one training and I read a book. And inside the book, I found a particular popular website where you can find opportunities. They call it Opportunity Desk. Mm-hmm. I'm sure many of us might know Opportunity Desk. But I found it in a book. Like nobody actually told me what Opportunity Desk is. Now we have Opportunity Desk. We have opportunities for Africans. We have different just if in fact if you just Google opportunities for Africa, you see different websites and on Twitter opportunity hub or something as well. So Oya opportunities, different things like that. And they all have similar whatever. Even your connects on LinkedIn, they share opportunities and you see that they are all the same opportunities. But sometimes when we look at them and read them, we'll be like, oh, this one is not for me. Let me try the next one. And then the next one comes, you'll be like, this one is not for me. What I do is that I'll try to find a way to work on the areas where maybe if you find questions around what you do, and you're not doing that, find a way to do those things so that you can now have the track record. So I don't think every opportunity is for now or for the moment. You can decide, okay, in the next year or in the next 2 years, I'm going to apply for this. So what do I do now to be able to be positioned for the opportunity? And there are some opportunities that come even without you being fully ready. Like being with GFC Youth Leadership Council. I had no experience. It happened in 2023. I just started working with an NGO, but I told my story. I just told them that I started a podcast, and I don't know how that helped my application. I had no experience. Even when I joined, I was like surprised, how did I come here? And I meet people who are doctors, who are professionals, who work with organizations. But I think one of the challenges that people run away from them, and it doesn't help that you run away from them. The opportunities are there. They are very challenging and very competitive, but it is still possible. Like it is really. But I know my friends who they are still coming up. We are all still young professionals, but they have had those opportunities. How? They just pray and try. They don't say it's not for me or let me just try. You have to keep trying and keep making the effort, and that's how I think it works. Don't be scared to go on LinkedIn and find those opportunities or find those people. Just try, because you don't know if you don't try. So the opportunities are there. I always recommend people go to opportunity desk because they have all the opportunities that you'll find in other websites. They'll still bring it there. You still find it there. So opportunity desk helped me. Even with joining GFC was through opportunity desk.
Yeah. Thank you very
And
much.
through Men Engage, the group chat, I was able to have access to other.
Yeah, thank you very much. I feel like just to reiterate what Chidinma has said, it starts with like sharing, telling people around you, oh, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a job, or I'm looking for this type of opportunities, or I'm interested in global relevance, or like doing anything that's going to make me travel or take me out of the country. Just like telling people around you. With Chidinma's story, she started with telling people around her, and then that was how she got connected to Men Engage through her pastor. But she didn't end there. So from that one opportunity with Men Engage, she applied herself very well, and from then on, she started getting more opportunities. So the point here is, for young professionals, do not self-select yourself out. Do not say, "Oh, I don't think I'll be able to do this," or "I don't qualify." In fact, even if you don't want to like submit any applications now, go to all these links that Chidinma has mentioned today: opportunity desk, opportunity for Africans, Oya Now opportunity, and the rest. Go there and see the kind of opportunities that they have. Look at the application process, the application materials, and ask yourself, like Chidinma said, can I fully apply and be confident that I will get it now? If no, what are the things that they are requiring from you? Start doing those things, right? Start doing them now. Start building that portfolio. It helps a lot. It helps because like in the next 50 years, in the next say 30, 40 years, we are going to be the old adults. We are going to be the leaders regardless. All those people will definitely go away, and then it will become you. So like ask yourself, where do I want to fall on the spectrum 30 years from now? Do I want to keep on consuming, keep on applying, or do I want to be the one people are applying to, the one that is, so ask yourself where you want to fall on the spectrum in 30 years' time and start doing the work now. And a good way to do that is to start applying yourself. No one is saying, oh, this is the route that you must take, but if this is what you're interested in, then you should start looking into that. So thank you very much for sharing that, Chidinma. The fourth question that I have before we quickly open it up to Q&A, and I wanted to just like quickly touch on this, is I know that you got married, I think, in 2025. Was it 2025 last year or 2024? November 2024, I remember, right? So I know you just recently entered a new phase of life as a married woman, and you're young and you're, still very active in the work that you do. So I want you to talk about that as well. I want you to talk about that aspect of your life as a young professional, how you have been able to find a balance between partnership, between relationship, between spirituality, and the challenges that you have faced as well. Because there's also this notion that many young professionals have, like as a man or as a woman, a man will tell himself, well, I don't want to get married now because I think that marriage is going to distract me. I want to focus on my career. I want to do 30 or 10 years plus of, career relevance before I start thinking of a wife, and I want to be very stable before I get married. Or a woman will tell herself that if I get married, that is the end of my career. Like I'm no longer, relevant in society or whatever. I'm just now a wife and a mom. But look at you here, who is a wife, who's still globally relevant, who's still very active in her career. I want you to tell us how you have been able to do that, how you are doing that, and the challenges, some of the challenges that you have had to surmount or you're still surmounting on the journey.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. So, one of the things that I would mention growth. Throwback, we met in the university and we realized that our purpose aligned. We want to do the same thing. We want to achieve the same goals. We want to see that Africa develops. We want to see transformation in young people. We want to see transformation in the new generation. And we're thinking about the children. We're thinking about the adolescents. So that alone gave me courage that being on this path isn't going to change anything, because I realized that we want the same things, right? There isn't going to, even while we were dating, I had those opportunities to travel and all. He will support me. We work on actual women engage. We worked on it together, and it was like a progress for both of us. And for me, even being married, the experience has been way better, because now we are more we work better together now that we are in the same space, and it has really helped me. And one of the challenges I would say was just basically relocating, because I had grown up all my life in Lagos, moved to Ogun State where my parents built their house, and having to come down to the east was like taking me to the east, literally, like to the village. And I didn't want to go inside, but at some point I had to come to terms with myself and think about what I want. And I was really supported by my husband. He said there will be no issues. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to dream, just open up your mind. It will now be difficult, because I know that I still wanted to travel. I still wanted to make an impact. I was coming into a new terrain. I don't know how the job market is here. I don't know how development space is here, and I really had to start over again. And one of the things that he helped me to do is, okay, instead of you to just come here and not do anything, why not go back to school? So he advised and helped me, and I said, okay, I'm going to register for my MSc before even the marriage, so that by the time I come here, at least I'll be, if I'm not actively working, I'm actively building skills and having like a career advancement, like in my education. So I got married. The month I got married, I started school, because that was the month that we had to resume. So I came here, I started my master's, and has been ongoing for a year. And I realized that it wasn't so bad, because I still had opportunities to advocate through the affiliations that I have, even though I'm still actively searching for like paid job opportunities to fill. I've been able to like set up an organization through the help of one of my affiliate organizations where I volunteer with. We're able to register the organization and begin to work in the communities. And even immediately I got married, my husband has been very instrumental. We're able to carry out like projects in December. Like I got married in November, I moved here in November. I had a project that same month in November and the next month in December. And it continued last year, May, July, August. We had stuff going on. We had help. with people here that kind of helped us to enter the community and work with the adolescents in the community. So it's been a year and 4 months now, and I can say that it has been rewarding. My husband will always tell me, "How do you feel now? All your doubts, all your whatever, are they clearing up?" I'm like, "Yes, my doubts are clearing up because I feel like the future is bright, and I'm really open to exploring more opportunities even while we're here." So it has been really helpful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So what I hear is there was alignment before you guys even got married. You guys were working in the same direction. You guys were interested in the same things, alignment. And that's one of the things that we should take away from here today, alignment. Then you also talk about like support. It didn't just like end in alignment. He understood where you were coming from, having to like uproot your life from Lagos and Ogun State and coming to the East where you knew no one except him. So he supported you in that regard as well. And the last thing that I heard you say on your own part was compromise. You were willing to compromise. Like you said, you had to start again from the bottom and start, building again. And then also from your compromise, you started giving yourself action points. What should I be doing now per time? And you said, if I'm not going to be working actively, let me actively be going to school. So that's one thing that I want us all, I'm telling myself as well, to take away from this conversation. One of the things to take away, because there's so many things to take away. One of the things to take away is, as a young professional, you can actually do everything. You can, there's not, in fact, I didn't even saying you can do everything is almost as if there is a possibility of you not being able to do some things. You as a young individual, a man or a woman, is your career, your family life, your spirituality, sum total to make you who you are, right? To make you whole. So there is not one part that says, oh, this part has to be sacrificed for this. No. But you can see with Chidinma's case, there's compromise, right? She got married to someone who she's aligned with, who supports her, and she was willing to compromise. She's still doing the same things that she's doing, but in a new and different dimension. So don't let anybody, even the society, don't let the society or even your own idiosyncrasies tell you that, oh, this part has to die for this part to survive. No. You are you, and you are full, and you are whole, and you can actually do it. All you have to do is to like look for someone who is aligned, look for someone who can support you, and then also be willing to compromise as well. Because in life, it's also like a give and take situation. In anything that you choose, even in the part that you think is the only part that you should take, there's a compromise. If you are focusing on only your career, there's a compromise that you are making within that same career. Why not raise your life together in the same stead and be successful? The last question that I have quickly for you, Chidinma, is I want you to, if you could speak to your younger self, and by extension also underscore, I really, really like asking this question because it takes you back and it's also like a reflection for us to learn from. If you could speak to your younger self, what would you say about finding your voice and creating change in society? What would be the one thing that you tell your younger self with everything that you know now in life? Sorry, before you answer the question, please, if you have any questions for Chidinma, you can drop it in the chat box or you can raise your hand using the react function on Zoom. So we'll unmute you. If you raise your hand, we'll unmute you to speak. You can raise your hand like this. You can drop it in the chat or you can use the Q&A function on Zoom to also drop your questions. We will get to the questions in the next 2 minutes. Sorry, Chidinma. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so quickly, I'll just say that if I could speak to my younger self, right, I'd say that, where do I start? Honestly, it's a lot. But what I'll say is that I might not be able to control my past. I may not be able to control things that are out of reach, but what I can control, I would. I'll tell myself to take risks. I'll tell myself not to be afraid. And I'll tell myself that regarding whatever burden I have, because one thing that helps us with fulfillment in life is being able to respond to that burden within you. There's always something that you're angry about. There's always something that you don't want. There's always a problem that you don't like. It could be your environment. It could be that you are broke. You don't always have um like a sustainable source of income. It could be anything. It could be how you were brought up. It could be issue of parenting. It could be how your family was. It could be anything. But that burden, always remember that you you might not have been able to control it, but you can be part of the solution. And the solution might not happen today. It might not happen tomorrow. That's why I'll advise everybody to think long term in everything that you do, in the work that I do. Because if you are thinking about to good enough, you might feel like you are not getting what you want or what you bargain for. But when you think long term, you kind of project and you think about success in the long term. What do I want to see when I'm 30 if I'm 20 years old now? And start working towards it and say by 30, this is what I want to see happen. This is the change I want to see. If you are probably 25 or 30, you think about maybe the next 10 years, the next 15 years. It helps you project and it helps you to kind of space out your expectations and what you can do part time to bring you to that resolution. So I'll tell my younger self that I might not be able to control my past. People as advocates, we can't control those things. We can't go back in time and correct it. But I believe strongly that we can help the next generation. We can set the record straight. Like we can be able to solve these issues, and we can do this by thinking about it in the long term. Like currently, we're thinking about how can Africa be developed. Africa will not be developed in one day or in 1 year. We can think about it in the next 30 years, perhaps. It can be sooner. But how can we now, every day, every week, every month, every year, what are the things that we can do? How can we get that roadmap to be able to take us there? Think about the young people, think about the children. What kind of education do they need to have now that will be able to transform their lives and also help them to now lead in that transformation for Africa? So thinking about long term actually helps, and taking risks. There are so many young people who are complacent, they're not willing to take risks because they can't see a future, they can't see the possibility of a better Africa. So they're not willing to take those risks. So when you think long term and you make those decisions and you have that roadmap, think about people around you can collaborate with, think about the partnerships and the community you need to build, and then begin to take those risks, because risk is very important. Think about the people that made impacts since when we're born or before we were born. They were risk takers. So that extension gives to other young people that you need to begin to leave your comfort zone and take those risks. Yeah. And everything is possible. It all depends on you.
Thank you very much. I really, really like that. And I really, really like the things that you said. Before I say anything further, if you have questions, now is the time. You can raise your hand and I will unmute you to ask Chidinma your question directly, or you can drop your question in the chat box, or you can use the Q&A function on Zoom to drop your questions. Whilst we're waiting on that, I'm just going to reiterate some of the things that you said. And it's very fantastic and, also very intriguing to hear you say these things. And it is the same things that majority of the speakers that we have had on the call say. If you are just joining the Young Professionals Network for the first time today, we have the recording of these sessions on Zoom posted. So you can go back to YouTube to check for the recording of these sessions and see, corroborate what I'm saying. Find out for yourself if I'm lying. This is the exact same thing that our previous speakers have said. I really like what you said about focusing on your circle of influence. I think I was reading The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Steve Harvey. I forget his name. He talked about one of the rule is focusing on your circle of influence versus your circle of concern, right? So your circle of influence are the things that you can control, things that you have control over. So focusing on that instead of focusing on your circle of concern is things that you are passionate about, but you have no control over those things. Say, for example, there is light now up NEPA, right? That's like your circle of concern for you, Chidinma. But it's you cannot really control whether or not they bring the light to a large extent, right? So instead of you worrying about like, oh, the NEPA, I don't know if they will bring the light today, you focus on your circle of influence. Oh, I can get, as you've done for this call, I can get rechargeables, I can get like LED lights that I can use to supplement when there is no power supply from NEPA. I really like that you said that, and you already talked about so much on taking risks. I'm not going to overflog that as well. Another thing I would just like to say is be when you talked about like being part of the solution, and immediately you said it might not happen now. That's one thing that we as young professionals we need to have at the back of our mind, right? The solutions that you seek might not happen, but a little drop of water makes a mighty ocean, right? I mean, when you look at it, literally, it might not seem feasible, but like figuratively, it means that, adding just like putting one step in front of the other. Right now, in my school, I am the president for the Students for Africa, and we are organizing a conference called Sustainable Development in Africa, right? So, and the theme for this year is reimagining the future of Africa through the lens of leadership, economic growth, and youth innovation. It is all because of the trends that we're seeing, like USAID was stopped, there is no more, like America is no longer doing business with Africa. And also, we're now doing business with China, and China's, we all know China's motive are purely financial, even though they do the Belt and Road Initiative, it's not essentially for the betterment of African countries. So we have started the conversation. So we're inviting academia. Keynote is to start the conversation to like see how we can be better, or like where Africa can go to be better, right? So there is that part, which is like the solution, but it's obviously not going to be overnight. It will take time. So, but still continue applying yourself as a young professional. Sit in those rooms, consume those information, give those information. It all will pay out in the long run. And you also said think long term. It's my own philosophy in life. If you want to be the president of Nigeria in the future, what should you be doing today to get to that future? So thank you very much for that, Chidinma. We do have 2 questions in the chat. I'm going to take them, I'm going to read them together, and then you're going to answer them the same time. The first question is from Bala. He says, just want to say thank you for putting this together, and thank you, Chidinma, for sharing about your journey. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That was not a question. Thank you, Bala. I'm very grateful. Another question from Patricia Awodeha is, what are the steps to take to bring visibility and support to propagate the vision of change, SDGs, and all change-making actions? So what are the steps to take for visibility? I really like this question. Over to you, Chidinma.
Okay. Thinking about the question, the first thing I want to say is that most times we kind of want to work in silos and want to bring visibility to our own work and try to get support for what we are doing. And so, but I think we need now in this dispensation is how we can rally around and work in solidarity with one another. If, for instance, we have spaces we need to fill, we can rally around people who share the same vision, work in those spaces, want to do those things. And it's easier to get support that way. It's easier to get visibility that way. And it makes the work go on faster. And I think at this point, that's what organizations working on a particular issue, and everybody comes and talk about impact and talk about this and that to get visibility and support for their work. But I'd rather that everyone comes and puts in each resource our strengths in that work and still carry out the same work. That's why now I'm total support of coalitions. Coalitions working in particular areas, probably gender equality, coalitions working around child marriage, like the Girls Not Bride coalition. We have so many coalitions working around probably water and sanitation and those issues. So in that case, it's easier to actually rally around for support. It's easier to get visibility. It's easier even when it comes to, like, because I think the idea of visibility and support will have to do with probably getting more collaboration or partnership or funding, and probably showcasing your work to be able to get those things. So imagine having a coalition of organizations working around this same issue. The impact kind of is exponential. And then even when they get this funding, they can be able to strategically align the funding to each organization working on this same, and the impact multiplies. So what I'll say generally is that for visibility, you have to do the work. You have to be able to have impact. You have to be able to show results for what you start where you are. Every organization, one thing I learned even in this January, when sometimes I feel like probably my organization compared to other organizations, we're not doing enough, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. Realize that even those global organizations, when you hear their story of how they started, you know that you're doing amazing work. And once you're able to portray that work, and it's not just maybe about social media or the numbers, it's about the impact. So when you're able to have impact stories, they speak for itself, and you can be able to see that people are actually looking for you. Because when you work with different organizations, you realize that some organizations are looking for you, and you don't necessarily have to look for those organizations. You just have to keep going and keep doing your work and keep showing up every day. So just like putting it out there, not really directed to the question now, is that we need to think about how we can join forces more in this dispensation than to kind of just do things in isolation. So I'm just putting it out there, not like in relation to the question now. It's just more
So I
like
think it's in
what is like the
relation to
big.
the
Not, I'm not trying to. Yeah, I'm not trying to say the question is not well framed, but I'm just saying, like, in this time, we need to start thinking about how we can work together. Yeah.
yeah. So I feel like that's a very profound response. In addition, I would just say, especially like you are very, I think your interest is also like the SDGs. So we have, I think, 17 SDGs. So pick a niche for yourself, first of all, how to showcase visibility. Pick a niche within the SDGs. Is it poverty reduction? Whatever it is that, takes you, that you really, really want, and then start doing something in that niche. If it is to, like, say, organize like awareness campaign, or say to do outreach programs, you go to schools, or to even create an organization like an NGO. We have Mildheart Care Foundation that Chidinma has created. So create something out of that SDG, first of all. Then number two is what Chidinma was saying, collaborate. Don't work in a silo, right? Don't only exist within your own network. Also, like, join other networks, join other young people who are doing the same thing. Right now, it might look like, oh, these young people, everyone is creating foundation, everyone is. But the thing that I know in life, if you, like you said, Chidinma, which is so correct, so right, the people that we are admiring today, all the Miboku and Woshika, all the Okonjo Iweala, all the Obi Ezekwesili, started exactly as we are starting right now. They started creating small, small silos within themselves and started collaborating. So it might look like it's a lot. It might look like, oh, you're telling people to create organization. Create it anyway. In the next 30 years, you will have young people who will come and meet you and say, oh, Miss Patricia, please, can you be my mentor? That's the future that we are, gearing towards. So the first thing I would say is create something from your passion. If it is something that is aligned with the SDGs, create that. And then start collaborating, like Chidinma has said. Don't work in a silo. Your organization and yourself as well. Join other organizations. Look at what the YPN is doing. The YPN is bringing people together. It's like a melting pot for young professionals to come and share stories. So you too do the same within your own organization. And the thing that you have to know that I think Chidinma highlighted on is that growth takes time. So for you to get visibility, when people come to meet you, or when you apply to things, or maybe you apply to grant funding, or you apply to conferences, international conferences, and you're not getting them, because they go and check your LinkedIn, they want to see your portfolio, they want to see the traces that you are leaving behind. And if there's nothing to track, if there's nothing to see, so they might not give you that opportunity. So that's why the beginning point for visibility is to put out content, not just random content, but content that you are passionate about, content that you have purpose. And like what Chidinma said, purpose can come from like you seeing a gap in the society that we have. This is something that other past speakers have talked about. You seeing a gap in the society and you wanting to close that gap. Or from Chidinma's story, it could be a desire. Your purpose can come from the desire to like maybe wanting to travel, like in the case of Chidinma, and then from there you were able to clarify your purpose and now have like a direction that you are tailing in life. So the bottom line is have a track record, number one. Let people know that you're doing something, you're known for something, you're known for this niche. Then number two, you have to collaborate with others. So that also helps the visibility to grow. And then number three, having it at the back of your mind that visibility and growth takes time. So you have to be consistent in the things that you're doing. You have to make sure that you are constantly churning out content. You do not say, oh, after 1 year, you fall by the wayside. No. And I feel this is a nice segue into the second question. Because the second question then says, for someone who has been trying and positioning but seems to be in a quiet phase of life at the moment, what can you tell that person? Someone who has been trying but seems to be in that things are not moving, or like in a quiet phase in life, what would you tell that person?
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to speak from experience because in the midst of my journey, I've had like several quiet phases and I'm still having. It's very contextual. I think it depends on what you define as quiet phase. So is it that you don't, is it regarding work? Is it regarding your like goals, your career goals? So mine personally had to do with like moving here, and for the first few months I didn't have like opportunities outside of where I was, but I decided I wanted to go back to school, like regardless. And even because like years back I'd had those opportunities, but one of the fears I had, like when I got married and moved here, was that it was going to take me time to like bounce back again and find it. And it happened because several months went by. I didn't have calls for like to do any advocacy, whatever, to do any project, whatever here. And it was scary. But I wasn't feeling so bad because I took advantage of what I had. I said, okay, even if I don't do anything, let me just go to school and still kind of keep my head in the game, like studying public health and seeing the issues around it. And just kind of, when I had an opportunity in May, my husband was like, you see, like these things might take some time, but as far as you have that track record, it's definitely come. So if probably you have had opportunities to work with an organization or volunteer, and you say, okay, my goal, for example, is maybe I need a scholarship or whatever, and scholarship is not coming, or you have applied for several scholarships, those rejections have not come. You have to keep doing what you are doing, keep volunteering, keep doing the work, and keep applying for those scholarships, because it will definitely come at the right time when you need it, when it is meant to come. So even if it doesn't come and you have a whole year or 2 years where those things are not coming, it doesn't deter you from just keeping quiet or feeling down. If you have to go back to school, probably in Nigeria, even though you want to study abroad, go back to school in Nigeria while we are waiting to study abroad. If you are looking for job opportunities with probably an international organization and you have not gotten it, the opportunities you have in your space or in your state or in your local community, do it. I prefer the visibility I'm looking for is to do actual work in my community. Like I'm always very proud to see that I went to communities, I did this, I did that. when I travel, sometimes I feel like I'm tired of posting, I'm here, I'm in this place, I'm in that place. I want to actually do the work because I know that even if I don't get the benefits now, this month, this year, it is kind of compiling together, or should I say, is coming together. When you look back and you eventually apply, maybe the 15th time or the 17th time, those track record will always be there. So don't feel down or feel bad or say this is a quiet moment. I think the quiet moment is a grooming moment, or is a period of like internalizing on what you really want to do and finding out what are the things that you need to keep doing to be able to come out of that season. And those seasons will always happen. Like it will always be there. It has happened with me like on several times where I'm just like, sometimes I feel like, oh, am I really supposed to be here? And am I really supposed to be doing this? And what kind of future do I foresee? And that's why I'm going back to what I said about thinking long term. Because if you think long term in the next 10 years, 20 years, it helps you to now like introspect and say, okay, it's not really about today, it's not really about next week, it's not really about next year. So if you think in long term, you'll be able to embrace that season, which happens to everybody. So, and you'll be able to like walk through
Um,
it and embrace it and come out of it.
yeah,
But it's
thank you so
always
much. Mm.
there, yeah.
Yeah, thank
Imagine,
you.
I think Nancy,
Yeah.
you should be able to share your experience on this,
Oh, yeah.
probably before you traveled.
Oh, yeah. Well, before I traveled, for me, so like before even sharing the experience, what I would just wanted to like add, because that would give context to my experience, is what you said, Chidinma, be consistent, even in your quiet phases, be very consistent. And then the next thing I was going to add is the Bible says, do not cast your bread onto the sea and it will come back to you, right? So what I'm saying essentially is dabble into a lot of things, like do put your hands in a lot of things so that when this phase is quiet, this other one might not be quiet. Or even if these two phases are quiet, this third phase might not be quiet, right? So, and that's like my own experience as well, because before I left Nigeria, I was working. And in 2022, I was working, I was schooling, I was doing a postgraduate degree program. I've always been doing a lot. So I was working, I was doing a postgraduate degree program, and I was applying to do my master's abroad. I think in 2022, I got admission. So in 2021, I applied. That was when I graduated from my undergrad. I applied to do my master's abroad, and I applied to the US and the UK, and I only applied to one school in each of these two places. So the one I really, really wanted to go was the one in the US, but they didn't give me admission. So I was very distraught. But then the one in the UK gave me admission. What that did for me in 2022, the admission came and I was supposed to resume that year. But I said to myself, no, this is the UK is not really where I want to be, or like where my purpose is. Like, because like if you have determined your purpose, if you know your long-term goal, it helps you. I've talked about this before and I don't want to like plug it again. Like once you have like that clarity of purpose, it directs and propels everything in your life. So I already had that clarity of purpose. The UK application was just to, they say just apply. So I said, let me just apply. But when the one I wanted did not give me admission, I felt very distraught. I felt like I was not worthy. I felt like, am I really worthy? What was I even expecting? Only me sit down on my laptop and apply to a whole America, and then I'm expecting. So like I felt really low in my spirit. But when I got the UK admission, that signaled to me that, well, you're worthy. And that was fully funded as well. It signaled to me that you're worthy. You can actually do this. It is possible. So that was when I said, okay, it is possible. I can actually do this. And I will do it. But I didn't take the UK admission because it wasn't what I really, really wanted. So I decided to reapply again the next year. And I got multiple offers. So I had to pick and choose the one that I wanted to do. But within that wait time, within that phase, I was not idle, right? I was still working. In fact, my life was moving as if this was not part of the plan. Like I was still living my life. When I got my admission, I was in Angola. I got a contract. I was working in Angola as an expatriate. So I was in Angola in my hotel room when I got an email on my laptop and I saw that you have been given admission. I screamed and I was very excited, but I was working. I was doing something. right? When I went for my visa interview. In fact, I went to Ghana, to Angola, because I was 6 weeks in, 3 weeks out. I would travel to Angola for 6 weeks and then go back to Nigeria for 3 weeks, because they wanted me, my contract was for me to stay in the country. But because I also knew that that was not my long term goal, I said no. I renegotiated in fact, I didn't sign the contract until after 2 months, because while I got the contract, I was working. I had to quit the job that I was doing to take the contract. So the bottom line is, when you're doing something in life, always be, first of all, be consistent. Number two, dabble into a lot of things. Some people, when they want to travel abroad, they pause their life. You see them start telling everybody, oh, I want to travel, I've applied. They've not even gotten the admission. They've not even gotten the travel document. The thing has not been set in stone yet, but they've already started living. It's good to do that, but the bottom line is, you have to, don't put all your eggs in one basket. What I'm trying to say. That pull into a lot of things. And how do you then the next thing is, you say, so I should be working. There's so much to say about my story, but it's not about me today, it's about you. Chidinma. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Right. So the bottom line is, I'm saying now that, oh, that pull into a lot of things. Oh, do this, do this, do this, apply yourself here, apply yourself there. One might say, well, what about burnout? Like, imagine me, I was working, I was planning my wedding. I also got married in 2024, June. I was working, I was planning my wedding, I was going to marriage class, I was applying to schools, everything, and I was traveling. My husband was also like, he knew my own trajectory was also in line and in sync with my own trajectory as well. So, like, a lot of, in fact, somebody told me when I was in Angola in my hotel room one time, he was like, how are you doing it, girl? Like, you're planning your wedding. You're currently in Angola. In fact, I was in Ghana 4 days to my wedding. When we were in Ghana, I came back from Ghana 4 days to my wedding, 4 days to my traditional wedding and white wedding. So everybody was very concerned about like me. But how have I been able to like survive with
When we saw you in Ghana, that you were saying you were getting married, we were surprised that and you are here.
yeah, people were
How are you
surprised.
doing
People did not
it?
believe. People did not believe. I know my strength. So, but like, how was I able to like plan everything, and I'm still standing? I don't look like I'm burnt out, even though sometimes I really get tired. And that's it. Even right now, as I'm here, there are some quiet moments in my life. There are some things that I've really, really wanted, really, really thought I deserved, really, really put myself into the process and didn't get it. So, like, what do you do in that process? So, applying yourself. But number two, knowing how to schedule. That's one thing that helps me a lot. Like, knowing how to schedule. For example, I have long-term goals, I have short-term goals, then I have to-dos. If you look at my notes that's currently sitting here now, I have so many to-dos. My to-dos for my long-term, my to-dos for my short-term, and my to-dos for today. So scheduling, right? It helps you a lot. When you are doing a lot of things, like you're applying yourself here, you're applying yourself here, you're not just focusing on one area, which is good. Specialization is good. But I feel as a young professional, right, this stage of our life is the stage of casting your bread onto the sea. I was reading about Ebuka Awoshika recently. She was into manufacturing. Like, she was a sales girl working in a manufacturing in a furniture shop, and then she decided to pivot into, having our own manufacturing company. And before you know it, she pivoted into finance and banking. One might say, pick a side. Are you here or there? Right? But no, as a young professional, you can actually apply yourself. So the best way one of the ways to, overcome quiet moments in your life is if you also like have like other multiple things that are running simultaneously. And you can actually do it. It seems like it's a lot, but it's possible. A way to do it is to schedule. There's so much more to say regarding this. And that's why I encourage everyone on this call. You can reach out to the Young Professionals Network. We have a Gmail account that you can send your questions to, and we'll redirect it back to. If you want to like ask Chidinma more questions, you can send us an email at ypnnetwork@gmail.com. I'm going to type it in the box, in the chat box, ypnnetwork@gmail.com, and we can direct your questions to the relevant speaker that we have. And then you can also like drop your suggestions for us as well in that email. So thank you very much. I don't see any more questions. I know we have gone above time, and I just want to like say, well, when you're having like nice conversations, you tend to forget all. time, and besides we also like had like network challenges. Thank you so much everyone for joining the call today. I would invite you all, if you join the call late, please endeavor to go back to YouTube when we upload the session on YouTube and watch the replay. And thank you. Chidinma, do you have anything that you'd like to say to everyone before we leave today? Any final words?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that community is important. We can't do this life alone. And for me personally, like my husband has been he has been a huge support system. I feel like you should just have that group. It could be somebody, it could be friends, your close friends. Even when you are going through that quiet moment, don't do it alone. Talk to someone, go out, interact with people because it helps your mind. It helps you to be in the right space. It helps you to even come out and be able to try things. So community is so important. Your group people, your group chats, your networks, keep talking
The
to them, keep
YPN.
interacting. Yeah, keep interacting with them, keep talking about the issues that you're going through. Like me, like I'm job hunting. I talk to my friends. I'm like, if you have any job, you have them. So I'm not quiet about what I want. I'm not quiet about because anybody out there might have it, but since we don't know what's happening with you or in your life, might not be able to help. So don't be quiet. Just keep interacting with your friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
when the
also,
opportunity comes, they can think about you.
yeah. And also, a last point or a last note on that question is quiet moments can also be very, very good. It's a way or a time for you to also re strategize, like to, rearrange your priorities. So, like, also like embracing that phase of your life, because it's no matter how you try to fill up your time or try to focus on many activities, like I have said, there will definitely still be like quiet phases where you are just like, hoping and waiting on circle of concern. You have no concern over, or no control over that concern of yours. But like, looking on the bright side and say, in this quiet phase, how can I re-strategize and redirect my life to what I want it to be? There's